My old friend from Kavadashi, who has been living for more than 10 years in the USA, told me this story. During my official visits to the USA and Canada, I was his guest on various occasions. I used to attend the consecrations of the newly built cathedrals of the Macedonian Orthodox Church. However, this time I met Jovan in Kavadashi purely by chance. First, we were together at the municipal assembly, and after that we went to a restaurant where he told me his story, worth remembering. Many Macedonians usually go through such experiences when they are young, and also when they become mature, regardless of whether they are in their homeland, in Europe, Canada, the USA, or in Australia. 10 years have passed since my last meeting with Jovan in the USA, so this unplanned meeting in our homeland was an occasion and inspiration for a flashback to his past and to evoke the most exciting experiences of his life. He would never forget what happened to him 6 years before, during his short stay in Kavadasi, when his neighbor invited him into his house for a cup of coffee. Such meetings and relaxed conversations between neighbors in Macedonia are most enjoyable for our migrant workers who have been living abroad for many years, feeling nostalgia for their fatherland. No sooner had he reached the doorstep of the neighbor's house than Jovan's eyes met the magically beautiful girl who emerged from nowhere to welcome him inside, in broken Macedonian. While they were entering the sitting room, Jovan's neighbor said to Jovan, "This is our niece Eli, born in New York, who has come to visit us soon." Coffee was served by the neighbor's wife and their guest. After Jovan was received gladly and generously, the topic of their conversation began to move to a most unexpected topic. This was related to the marriage of this girl who, although she was born abroad, came to her fatherland to find herself a perfect match, a husband to build a nest with for their future family. So Jovan and Eli became the focal point of attention for both the hosts and themselves. Jovan quickly realized that the invitation for coffee with his neighbors was not accidental. Its scenario was developed beforehand so that he and their guest could play the starring roles. They not only became fond of each other on that occasion, but also began dating and enjoying each other's company. From that moment onwards, the preparations began to shoot a marriage movie directed by Jovan's neighbor and his wife Rada, who simply couldn't hide their satisfaction with the success of their plan. Jovan and Eli were together every single day. They were living together at his house, and they were also enjoying going to restaurants in Kavadasi and Nicotinho, and later also in Solon, where they used to go shopping each Saturday. Eli's parents, who were living in the USA, were more than happy that her daughter had made her life choice, and therefore they began preparing for a lavish wedding in New York because their only daughter deserved it. Everything was okay by then, Jovan told me. Entranced by this unusual meeting and by the beautiful girl, he seemed to forget that he had come to Macedonia from the USA to make arrangements for his own wedding with his future wife first from Vels, with whom he already had a 3-year relationship. But there he was caught in a marriage trap, and as if unaware of what was happening to him. However, he had to regain his reason quickly. Otherwise, malicious talk and scandal would start. Contemplating his embarrassing situation, Jovan made up his mind to act according to a judgment of Solomon to postpone the wedding with Verse, making excuses for such a delay, and go to the USA with Eli. He was like a child choosing the better of two toys. In this case, Eli was Jovan's better option, which he embraced. It was hard for Verko from Vels to swallow the reasons for the postponement of her marriage with Jovan, but nevertheless she bowed to his pressure when he convinced her that the reasons were related to his family, and that he was going to settle that issue in the USA in a relatively short time. One day in September, Jovan and Eli flew to the USA. Their reception at the airport, arranged by Eli's mother, was spectacular. It didn't take long, however, for the whole situation to take an ugly turn. The young couple lived with Eli's parents and soon felt their influence on their marriage. The marriage arrangements were planned by his mother-in-law, not by the newlyweds. Life in this home soon showed its negative side. The reactions of Jovan, expressed in the presence of Eli, had no effect whatsoever on the selfish decisions made by her mother. Soon after the wedding, they reached a crisis in their married life. The solution was to be found in their decision either to accept her mother's interference in their marriage or move to another apartment. Eli reacted strongly to Jovan's proposal. This was when he realized that Eli was dependent on her mother and was not ready to separate from her parents. He finally opened his eyes and started to look for a solution. It didn't take him long to find it. One day, under the pretext of taking a walk in New York, he boarded the first plane for Skopje. He went to Wels on the first train to see her beloved Verko and told her that he had finally solved his family problems in the USA, which were the reason for the postponement of their wedding. "What about the documents from the marriage registry?" I asked him. "Aren't they going to be the main obstacle for your marriage with Verko?" "No, they won't, because they never existed. The marriage ceremony and wedding with Eli was not legal. A friend of mine provided me with a document with a seal on it, but that, in essence, didn't have any legal validity. Therefore, I destroyed that document while I was still in the USA, and there is not a single trace of it." Her parents, however, were assured that that document was to be translated into English and certified by the marriage registry office. But, as you can see, it was not the case, said Jovan. "My married life with Verko is entering its third year and was strengthened by the birth of our daughter Mirjana," said Jovan. "The Americans caused you problems, didn't they?" I asked him.
There were attempts from their side. The first time they tried to persuade me, in a nice way, to return to their daughter and keep on living together. They even offered to pay my plane ticket and rent an apartment where we could live apart from them. The second time they threatened me with court proceedings, but when they realized that it didn't bother me at all, they gave up. Maybe they hoped that I would return to the USA as a migrant worker and that I would continue living with their daughter. But when I came back to Macedonia, I started a new life, not as a migrant worker, but as a citizen of my own country, my homeland. "Has Verse ever heard anything about your marriage in the USA?" I asked him. "No, my present wife has never found out anything about it. Perhaps because she has never had any reason to be suspicious. Yet, if you ask me about the difference between that and this marriage, it is in the money. Eli's parents in the USA were rich by comparison to Verse's parents here in Macedonia. But as you can see, love is stronger than money.